when I think of 1995 and the internet coming to the world and starting to be commercialized, I went to brands back then and to retailers around the UK and Europe and rest of the world and talked to them about this. And in some cases, they said, come in, talk, work with us, develop something. And in other cases, in a lot of cases, they said, you're talking Star Trek. Thank you very much, but go away. And they sent me away. Now, for some of those companies, they survived. Even so, they were slow, but they survived. There are many names that I remember, brands that went to the wall, that are no longer, they're only in memories of people like me. They've gone because they didn't change. And I can't emphasize this enough. You cannot ignore artificial intelligence in the different forms it takes. Whether it's a large language model that's on maths and text, words, or whether it's a generative AI model on voice, video, images, and things like this. No matter what it is, you can't ignore it. If you do ignore it, you ignore it at your peril. I warn you of that. Do not become one of those companies that went to the wall because you didn't listen. When people said the internet wouldn't take off in 1995, I look back now and go, look.
All these disruptions you've seen happen were building blocks, ways of making things more efficient, but also ways of adding more opportunity, adding more potential for small companies to large companies to do more. But with generative AI, do you see any change or difference in the effect that it's going to have on companies, on businesses, and the industry as a whole?
That's a great question, because when I think back, these changes in my lifetime, my experience in work, they happen over an extended period of time. It may take 3 years, it may take 5 years, it may even take 10 years for these disruptions to work themselves through. That's the scope of the disruption, the detailed use cases, the return on investment, the marketing materials, the education, all that package that goes into it. Today, what we saw taking 5 years, let's say, in the sort of last couple of chapters of my technical sort of digital world in fashion, will happen in a matter of weeks or months at the most, not years. So I think this is critical for people to understand. Coming back to your question now around generative AI. Generative AI will take advantage of all those solutions and libraries that we have within the fashion industry. So it might be a material library, for example, where somebody's collected and designed materials, and they may have this digital library of tens of thousands of images of material images. We can bring them into a generative AI model. For me, it's a small language model. In fact, a very small, preferably, in the fashion industry. We don't have the huge amounts of data. We do on basic text and English. We use all the different languages and translate and maths and things like that, yes. But in the generative scope of this question, we're in the small world, right? So we have tens of thousands of fabrics.
So I agree with you that it needs, just like you, when you were young, in your 20s, you developed processes and you said, how do I make my life easier at work?
Yes.
And here you want the designers and the planners and, everyone in that doing the work, doing the actual hard work. It needs to join the people with the money, with the checkbook, to say, okay, I'm going to put $500,000 into developing in-house tools, proprietary tools, to be able to enjoy in 2 years' time that efficiency gain. I think my guess is that a lot of businesses are kind of waiting and hoping for off-the-shelf packages to come off, just like in 3D. You had Browserclo and all these guys, hoping that they're going to get these software tools and they'll just learn like them how they learned all the software that we're currently using and just keep going as is. My instinct is saying that that's not going to be the same model anymore. By definition of artificial generative intelligence, it requires you to work to your language, to your, like you said, DNA. And therefore it requires you to start building unique, almost, tools within your organization to be able to really enjoy the benefits that come.
Absolutely. And you're spot on there, Gore. If those brands and retailers, and for that matter, their manufacturers, wait around for the software developers that we have today to create AI tools that they can wait for and then utilize them and answer the question, the bigger question of utilizing AI, then frankly, they're wrong. For those who think they can wait, well, I'm sorry, you stand a massive chance of getting hurt, financially and efficiently. You will need to start to develop tools because we don't have a pure end-to-end workflow that's got AI, in every single solution. If we take design, for example, Adobe has already started and is building AI into its suite of products. Okay. And other tools like product lifecycle management will over time build AI efficiencies into PLM so that PLM will work smartly, more efficiently, and faster. So we've got the design front end, we'll have the PLM, we'll have planning tools, all the different tools. They're general, if you like. If you rely on them, you're relying on general. We're back to that question of large language models. You are getting what they decide is right for a general purpose, whereas you, the brand and retailer, that has a specific requirement, will require your own smaller models that will work with those. Yes, it will ingest information, it will generate newness, and it will output. But without those, you're in this large language model general world, and you can't be in a general world. You need to be in a detailed, you need to be specific. You need to drive from trend to design to development, whether that's digital or physical, so on, up that value chain. And therefore, you need AI. And you can't wait around for the rest of the world to develop it on your behalf because it will be general.
I assume the big brands, the global brands, all the known brands, if they're not sitting around trying to figure out, okay, how do we make moves? You can't fight it. It's just like Hollywood's trying to fight, all this artificial intelligent tools that are coming out with regulations. You can't stop this. Is it the same in the fashion industry where they almost have to say, okay, how do we start reinventing ourselves to, maintain our brand identity, but they'll have to deliver their product in a different way. They'll have to advertise their product, market it, and they'll have to address this issue of more competition in the market.
They will. They will get disruptors. Disruptors will and do come, but disruptors will come faster because they'll be greatly enabled by the tools we're talking about. But I do feel the industry does have an opportunity here. And it has an opportunity in a way to address a few things. And one important thing is it can. If it plans for Web3, it will be able to engage with its current customers, but allow its customers to get more involved. So let the customers become the creators of that brand. Let them work together. And at the same time, then you get a made-to-order or a mass customization model that will enable them to deliver for the individual, highly personalized, as we said, and to be able to do them in a new model. And the the spin-off, the benefits are that instead of doing mass volume orders, we'll be able to do smaller orders made for that particular region, that particular customer set in a mass customization, meaning that we'll do maybe tens of thousands instead of hundreds of thousands, and maybe we'll do hundreds, and maybe then we'll get right down to the made to order, that single person. The technology is there, the platforms need to be built, but the underlining technology is there. We need to join the dots now to enable that, so that when Web3 arrives, these current traditional brands and retailers don't get caught out. But in between, and they're already starting, you'll get one-off companies that are operating in the world of Web3, and their customers will be receiving highly personalized products. Keep in mind what that does for ESG, our environmental sustainability goals. Just think of what that achieves. We deliver what you and I want, specifics. The spin-off, we don't have 10 garments sitting on the shelf that are never going to get sold that end up in landfill. So we've got enormous benefits for the environment.